Hey, this is Laura L. Bernhard from the Marketing Bound podcast. And if you really want to learn how to level up your life, you should be listening to the Time to Shine Today podcast with my great friend, Scott Ferguson.
Time to Shine Today podcast varsity squad. It is Scott Ferguson. And today we're going to talk to my really good friend, Laura Bernhard from Marketing Bound. We're going to get into how to attract your ideal audience to grow your podcast. I'll tell you what, I visit her site probably pretty much every day at marketingbound.com just to pick up steps to be able to give you, my listeners, fantastic content. In being able to interview somebody that I pick up the steps from is just even more awesome sauce. So Laura is a really good friend of mine from north of the border in Canada, and she has carved out some of her valuable time to come on and share her knowledge nuggets with you. So without further ado, here's my really good friend, Laura Bernhard from Marketing Bound. Let's level up. Time to Shine Today varsity podcast squad. It is Scott Ferguson. And I got a second take with my really good friend, Laura Bernhard here from Marketing Bound. I interviewed her before, but we wanted to get even more depth. So I'm so happy to have Laura agree to coming on and basically kind of talking about some of the same stuff, but not all the same stuff, because she has big news that she's rolling out with her company, Marketing Bound. And Laura L. Bernhard is the host of the Marketing Bound podcast. She interviews marketing experts about how entrepreneurs can leverage inbound marketing to attract their ideal clients. Laura is currently building Marketing Bound into a hub for inbound marketing resources for service-based entrepreneurs. She also currently coaches entrepreneurs to build profitable podcasts. And you have to check out her latest his latest blog regarding 15 reasons to start a podcast as an entrepreneur. And the one before it, I picked up some serious knowledge next to the top 10 podcasting mistakes to avoid, which I believe number 2 is one of my things that I have to. So you'll have to go to her website, marketingbound.com/blog, to check that out. But don't do it until after you hear this. So Laura, welcome back to the show. And if you could remind our squad what your favorite color is and why.
Well, firstly, thank you so much for having me on again. I'm super excited to go into more depth on everything that we spoke about. My favorite color is green.
Green. And why is that, other than being in your color wheel?
That's very true, actually. But I don't know. It used to be purple, and then I just kind of like the calmness of the green, the forest, that kind of vibe.
It's like renewing too, as we are in day 9,650 of quarantine for a lot of places in the United States. Like green in 2021 is really renewing time. Which you and we're always renewing, but I think green really fits you across the board. So let's get into Marketing Bound. Let's go into the origins and what got us started with Marketing Bound. And, let's put on our superhero cape and let's rock.
Yes. So for anyone who hasn't heard about Marketing Bound yet, I started podcasting about 2 years ago, and it was under a different name. And I started that just so that I can expand my network and meet entrepreneurs, which was great because as soon as the lockdown came in, I was meeting more people than ever. Whereas people were stuck at home and not meeting anyone, right?
Right.
So I was doing this podcast. It was great, but it was purely for selfish reasons, right? I just wanted to meet people.
Right.
I thought it was interesting, and that's why I did it. And then as the year went on, I realized this is amazing, but I can meet people and help people as well. And I've been in inbound marketing for 6 years now. Why can't my podcast be about that?
Right.
I do it every single day. And then the podcast is another reason to practice it and to keep learning about it, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm like, okay, let's revamp this podcast, call it Marketing Bound Podcast, continue to expand my network by interviewing marketing experts about it, but then also helping entrepreneurs leverage those strategies and making it easy for them to leverage it.
Love it. I love it. And I squad was privy enough to be interviewed by Marketing Bound. I can't wait for my episode to drop. But let's give the squad out there maybe a definition, for lack of a better term, of inbound marketing. What's inbound marketing?
Okay.
So you can Google this until your face turns blue, and there will be so many definitions out there for you. But I'm going to give you examples so that you know exactly where I'm coming from first, and then we're going to go into some definitions if you don't mind. So inbound marketing is blogging, content creation, podcasting, email marketing, SEO, which is search engine optimization. It's landing pages, it's optimizing your website, it's branding, thought leadership. So all these things that entrepreneurs already do on a daily basis don't realize that they're inbound marketing strategies, meaning that you are attracting customers to you as opposed to you going out to get them.
Got it.
Right? So you're writing a blog so that when people are typing it into Google saying, how do I start a podcast? And your blog pops up, that's a non-destructive way of helping your ideal customer without going out to get them.
When you say non-destructive, that's put some meaning to that. Oh, it's a destructive way. Non-destructive.
Okay. So you're not disrupting their day, because it's not like a billboard or a commercial where you're watching a show and then all of a sudden like Geico comes up.
Right.
That's disruptive.
Sure.
Right.
Right.
Whereas if I'm just typing in looking for information and my blog comes up, that kind of just seamlessly enters their day.
Got it.
Without being too aggressive. That's what inbound marketing is.
Love it. I love it. And I'm privy enough to learn from you, and also with regards to other stuff that I built so many of those things that you've mentioned, but I never knew it was inbound marketing until right this second. So, yeah, and that's awesome, Laura, because I mean, during this time and place that we're in, it's like you're able to meet people that you might not have ever met before, right?
Exactly.
And I found that, I mean, I would have probably never been introduced to you if it wasn't for the COVID and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I love that you're taking this time and really leveling up and like meeting people and wanting to get them to level up their business through inbound marketing, which that was probably the easiest and best definition that I've ever had. I said that before, but it is again. So why, like, give me some mistakes that, or maybe fail forwards that you had ran into while you were setting up inbound marketing for your companies.
Oh my gosh. What a loaded question. So many of them. Okay. I think the first thing, because part of inbound marketing is also social media. Mm-hmm. So I think the first thing is comparing yourself to what everyone else is doing. So you start seeing everybody on all these social media platforms. They have a blog, they have email nurturing, they have pop-ups on their website, they have so many things. And then you decide, oh, well, I'm just going to copy them because it's working for them.
Right.
And that's one of the biggest mistakes you can do. Number one, you don't know if your audience is on all those social media platforms. So why are you on all of them? Number one, right? Number two, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes of that company. Maybe they have more resources than you. And as an entrepreneur, if you're doing things by yourself, especially, it's so hard to copy someone else when that someone else has 4 or 5 people working on the same thing. Right? So I think a lot of the time we get carried away. And for example, you know how many people have asked me about podcasting? And I'll ask them like, oh, well, what podcasts do you listen to? And they're like, oh, I don't listen to any podcasts.
They want to launch their own, but they don't listen to it.
Exactly. Okay. So I'm like, oh, well, they see it as a fad.
Right.
They wanted to, jump on the bandwagon, which is okay. But if you don't realize how much time and effort it's going to take, then you shouldn't be copying your competition.
Right.
So that's a huge one that I really want to put out there. That obviously we've all done it at one point. We've all copied something that we're like, we shouldn't have done that. We should just focus on what we were working on.
Right. So how important do you think a niche is to your podcasting platform?
Extremely.
like me, when I first started getting into podcasting, it was more of because my whole Time to Shine Today, which people know was kind of built on affiliate marketing and companies send me products so that I'm blessed to get free products and be able to do a reviews and send them out to my list. But I just kind of figured, how can I niche in? And my coach is like, this is how you're going to build your niche with Time to Shine Today, is by interviewing coaches and then putting people with the coaches. So how important is the niche when you're starting podcasting?
It can be one of your downfalls if you don't spend enough time on it. It's the foundation, because the environment, the industry, the podcasting industry now is very different than what it used to be 3, 4, 5 years ago. So people start thinking about like Joe Rogan, they start thinking about, Entrepreneurs on Fire, these huge podcasts that started so many years ago. And they're like, I want to be like them.
Right.
But as we know, those podcasts are more general. The podcasting environment now is not the same. Now you have to target down, you have to niche down in order for you to succeed.
Okay.
It's just going to be helpful, especially if you don't have a large audience to begin with.
Right.
I started a podcast with no audience and I created a whole business from it.
Love it. I love it. And what was the aha moment really to pick let's revert back. Did you podcast as kind of a passion project and then you kind of went into business with it? Or were you always using your former business podcast to grow that?
So I started
a podcast. Sorry.
It's the order. It's the order of things, right? So I started a podcast for fun. My podcast was generating leads for my inbound marketing skills.
Okay.
Right? Without me trying, that's what happened. I got leads.
Got it.
And then I was like, whoa, there's opportunity here. Let's hone into it. So people started asking me more and more questions about podcasting. And that's when I was like, okay, I want to help everybody with all inbound marketing strategies. And that's what the podcast is for. But me personally, I can't do it all at once. So that's when I started honing in on podcasting.
Gotcha. So if we stick to because there's a lot that comes into inbound or into marketing bound for inbound marketing, but we'll stick just for right now into podcasting. What do you think makes a great podcaster?
The content, the sound quality, and the host.
Okay. So, man, I hit all three. Thanks. I'm totally kidding.
I agree 100%.
I'm just messing. It's funny we talk about that because I was talking with my coach today, and he's like, and part of my thing that he told me is like he's like, go back and listen to episode 33, your first interview, and then go back and listen to episode 177, your last interview, and you just hear so many different. Like now, I have conversations. Before, I'm always personal, I'm always vibrant, but I was still going off of a script. But now, I mean, I'd have like 10 questions. Now I got like 50 different questions that I can pull from with the way that the conversation goes.
Yeah. You know you're just better at it.
Yeah. And it starts going. So like you said, it's reps, right? Be consistent with it and have good content and good sound quality, right?
I think sound quality is a little bit underrated because people don't realize that that's the delivery of your product. You're in people's ears. If your sound quality is not there, people are not going to listen to you.
Yes, I love it.
So so there's that. And then there's the host. Like you tune in for the host. People tune in because of you.
Right. No, I feel you.
Right?
Right.
And then the content, well, that's what got them interested in the first place. They're tuning in because they also want to learn.
Right. And they want to level up.
Yeah. Did you know that 75% of people tune into podcasts to learn?
Oh, absolutely. I feel that that's what it is. I mean, because still there's so many other streaming services for entertainment, right? It's like you can go to Netflix, Hulu. I mean, the list goes on and on. But for a podcast, it's more of an educational format. And you hit that nail right on the head. Yeah. So if I'm networking and we're able to do it here in South Florida where we can go press flush, masked, of course. But like, if I'm networking on Zooming or LinkedIn or whatnot, how do I know if someone's a good referral, contact, or connection for Marketing Bound?
Well, firstly, your conversation with them, see if they're personable, if they're talkative. Sometimes I reach out to people and thinking that I want them on Marketing Bound. and then they just don't want to talk. Well, I'm like, okay, not the best candidate. But definitely, so if you can have a conversation with that person, but also if they're an inbound marketing expert on any of the topics that I mentioned before.
Got it. I got it. You're talking blogging, content creation, email marketing, branding, et cetera, right?
And that
Splash
stems
pages.
it stems into so many different things, right? That can be YouTube videos.
Absolutely.
Right?
And I got to tell you, like, my social following is not as good as it's going to be December 31st of this year. Like, I've got things lined up and planned because I didn't even want to go social. I love being intimate with my list. It's, to me, that's where it's at. But now I'm doing speaking engagements and yada to where I have to have the social. So it's I'm kind of outside my comfort zone in a sense as well with that. And I'm just stoked and ready to rock. So
that means you're growing.
Always progressing, never regressing. That's, I was interviewed a little bit ago today on a podcast and someone asked about, what's your biggest pet peeve? And I'm like, progression. It's like growing. It's like, I'm coming up on 50 years old. I look at myself now versus 35. I look a lot different, a lot more few of these gray things. If you're watching on YouTube, it's either, you can progress and be leveling up all the time, or you can stay the same and get fat and die. That's the way that, it has to be, even in business and growth. And speaking of that, like, through your journey, and like, we've talked about this before, but let's get in that DeLorean with Marty McFly. Okay. From Back to the Future. What kind of knowledge nuggets are you dropping on, we won't say your age now, but like the younger Laura Bernhard, to help her level up, blast through, and, shorten her learning curve?
Two things. First, to start networking like 10 years ago. So right now I'm 27. Okay. And at, let's say, about 20, I didn't understand that knowing people is super beneficial. Like knowing you, I've learned so much. All the people I've interviewed on the podcast, I've learned. So I'm at a different level than I was before the podcast. I've definitely leveled up because of my podcast.
Right.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. Sure.
So that's one thing. And then the second thing is to just start. I've had so many ideas in my head for 10 years and then never acted upon them. I'm like, Laura, young Laura, what were you thinking? Well, you weren't. So yeah, that's a really big one for me.
I love that you said that, to just start. I liken that to during the time you were kind of sinning. And I'm not saying in a religious sense. If you go back to the Greek origin of the word sin, it's missing the mark. That's all sinning is. So you're sinning against yourself. You're almost being selfish with the content that's in your head that you could be helping people level up, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I love that advice that you would tell that 17, 18-year-old Laura, to be like, don't get out networked, and just start. I love that you were very transparent with that. So we get into our dash and that little line between your incarnation date and your expiration date. How do you want Laura's dash remembered?
Oh, this is always a tough one because my mind goes like 1,000 miles an hour and I'm like, oh, well, I can be remembered for this and this. And I think my response is that I don't know if I want to be remembered personally, but I want what I built to be remembered for generations and generations.
And to make you absolutely what you've built almost extinct. And I say that in the most respectful way. It's like, you look at where we come with like the B-2 bomber that bombed like Hiroshima and Nagasaki and won us the war. But like now that it was great for that, but look at what it progressed to. It's like, you want to be that stepping stone of progression. If I heard that right, correct? It's like we remembered, but almost remembered like in a museum. That's how I want to be remembered. It's like, I want to
just
be like
on and on.
That guy was cool. He helped me.
Yeah.
So Laura, what keeps you up at night?
Oh, my thoughts.
Thoughts? Okay.
Just like endless. If I had to be specific, it's usually about Marketing Bound and how I'm going to grow that to its fullest potential. That's what's usually on my mind right now. Yeah. Because I have great plans for Marketing Bound not to just be a podcast, but to really be a resource and that hub for service-based entrepreneurs where they're doing all these inbound marketing strategies by themselves. I want Marketing Bound to be that hub where they can go learn by themselves and implement immediately. So I'm always thinking like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do that?
Right.
Yeah.
So you're setting up the program now for people to come into Marketing Bound and kind of learn the podcast. Are you teaching that as well within it? Which we'll get to that a little bit later, but just briefly, are you doing that?
Briefly, that's a separate course.
Okay. Gotcha. So if someone comes into Marketing Bound and you're in a kind of a discovery period with them, is there any good question that you wish they would ask you but never do?
Ooh, on the podcast, right?
Any part of inbound marketing.
That they would ask me. And I always go back to them. I'm always like, well, what do you need help with?
Yeah, I'd be like, listen,
like
man,
they can ask me anything.
You're the guru and I'm coming to you, but tell me about a freaking fail of yours. That's I always ask whoever it is. And that's what I'll tell them my fails, like straight up when I start, especially my executives that I coach and stuff like that. It makes you human. I'm glad that there's someone out there like you that's out there helping people, level up. So what is your secret sauce then to helping a lot of the people that want to level up their inbound marketing to find their blind spot?
So how I help them, right? So right now I'm doing that through the podcast, and hopefully I'm thinking service-based entrepreneurs, they have a lot of things to do. So I'm trying to make the podcast episodes shorter so they have time to listen to as many as possible.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And so that it's actionable advice so that they can implement it while they're listening to it right after.
Right.
And then eventually building that to blogs. So if people want written format or want to refer to it, they can always go to the blogs.
Love
and
it.
Then eventually webinars so they can have access to the marketing experts and then like unlimited possibilities, right? And then that's also where the podcasting course comes in. And that's where we have specific courses on specific topics. And the one that I have right now is on how to launch a podcast for service-based entrepreneurs.
Love that. And when does that launch?
That is launched.
Oh, it's launched.
Yes. So you can put it in your link.
Let's do it. That is going in the show notes, people.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So what's the one thing that people misunderstand about Miss Laura the most?
Oh my goodness. I think my creativity.
Okay.
Because for me to get to a good idea, I have to go through like 1,000 bad ideas. And I'm just like, don't worry, guys. I will get to that good idea. You just have to let me go through the process.
Let me just go through it. You got to, you said the exact word. There's a protocol and process to any idea that gets launched.
Yeah.
I love it.
Like, please let me go through the process.
So what then is Laura's definition of a life well lived?
I think it's freedom of your time. And that's why I love helping entrepreneurs, because all entrepreneurs are doing exactly what they want to be doing. They're getting paid to do exactly what they want to be doing every single day. And then when they don't want to do that, they're free. They can take time off whenever they want.
Yeah.
Right.
Like the Marketing Bound or like those parts is like stuff that I suck at. Like even on my real estate side, I should be, prospecting, listing, selling, negotiating, and closing. And like, I'll find myself kind of digging into other parts and I shouldn't. And luckily I have an awesome coach, Jared, that's like, Fergie, pulls me back. It's like, you have someone to do that. Yeah. And that's where delegation is really huge. So outside of your electronics, what are 3 things Laura Bernhard cannot live without?
My glasses, because I can't see.
Smart ass. But it's true.
So true. Like as soon as my glasses are off, oh my God, I have contacts on right now, but once those bad boys are off, I am useless.
You're like this.
Yeah. I have -5 prescriptions, so I really need them.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
So definitely my glasses and an extra pair just in case.
Okay.
Music.
Okay. What's your genre?
Oh, just about anything. So it can be like 70s, 80s, 90s, or like Taylor Swift. Like there's no really in between. It's just a little bit of everything.
Okay. And the
Yeah.
third?
Probably books, if I can have more than one, so that
Okay.
I'm not bored.
But your boyfriend's in the same room as you. You better
No,
say that.
he's not. It's fine. It's fine. This is just between me and you and everybody listening.
Everybody else, I love it. I love it. I love it. I can't wait until he hears that part. That's fantastic. No, books are huge. Books are
Yeah.
huge. Like they say, like not all readers are leaders, but all leaders are readers, and that's the bottom line. It's true. Very good.
It's so true. Such a good
So
quote.
awesome. So when we come back, we're going to get right into the leveling up lightning round. And hey, everybody, we're back. And my friend Laura is going to go through our leveling up lightning round. And you can answer these in 5 seconds or less. You and I could talk to each one of them for an hour, maybe more, you and I easily, but you got 5 seconds with no explanations. Can we do that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's level up. Laura, what's the best leveling up advice you've ever received?
Just start.
Love it. Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
Journaling.
Other than your own website, and of course, timetoshinetoday.com, like shameless plug. What's another website that you like to go to level up?
YouTube.
YouTube, love it. This is almost, I'm sorry, you ever watch Family Feud? You're looking down, answering these like that. Sorry. Laura's my friend squad, so I can kind of razz her a little bit. I think it's funny. I love it. I love her. So, not the book you're reading, not the flavor of the month. If I'm in my doldrums, you're like, Fergie, read this. You need to level me up.
Archie Comics.
There you go. We've texted about that. That's awesome. What is Laura's most commonly used emoji?
This face.
The smiley face with the eyes closed?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So what's your favorite charity and organization you like to give your time or money to?
The Children's Hospital in Montreal.
Love it. Love it. And the last question, you can elaborate. We kind of went over this a little bit, but what do you think, if you had to pick one, is the best decade of music? 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
Oh, 70s.
Okay, why?
Disco.
Disco Inferno. That's awesome. It was funny. Like we turned on the disco channel. We drove 9 hours up to Savannah. Me and my lady did over Christmas. And we turned on the disco channel for like an hour and a half. And we were, she's 7 years older than me and I'm 50. So it's like, or 48, she's 7 years older. So it's like our genre is like right there. And we were like Saturday Night Fever, BG. It was awesome.
And I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a lot of new remakes coming out of songs in the 70s and 80s. Yes. And I'm just like, that's because they're timeless.
Yeah. Earth, Wind, and Fire. They're redoing September. I just heard that. It's crazy.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't hear that one.
Yeah,
okay, I have to look for
it. Yeah. I forget who it is, but it's somebody from today. Actually, I kind of liked it. But so, all right, back to the serious here. But how can we find you, love?
Oh, yes. So everyone can find the blogs and the podcast at marketingbound.com. And you can find me on Instagram at the Laura L. Bernhard or just on LinkedIn, Laura L. Bernhard.
I love the URL Marketing Bound. Like, did that just come up in your search or did you have to like get that from somebody? Just curious.
The website?
Yeah, the URL.
It didn't exist. Like I got it.
Oh, are you kidding me? That is
I know,
sick.
Right?
Man, you're a freaking genius.
Thank you.
You're a genius. All right, so leave us with one last knowledge nugget you'd like us to take with us, internalize, and take action on.
You can get so much more done when you develop good habits. And that can be a better nighttime routine, getting up earlier, spending less time on your phone. But once you develop those good habits, you can really see greater success.
I love the habits that you said. And it's funny, like the phone, like one of my last podcast interviews, Pablo Gonzalez from Content with Pablo, I believe, he says that we scroll the height of the Eiffel Tower every day.
No.
If you really think about it, I mean, the Eiffel Tower is not a super tall, but it's tall enough, but still you're scrolling that much. And like his whole tagline is "We create thumb-stopping content." It's awesome, but he said that.
Clever.
Yeah, it's awesome. And you're clever. And squad, we just had an awesome conversation and quite a bit of a masterclass with my really good friend, Laura Bernhard from Marketing Bound. She's, if you're a content creator, email marketing, splash pages, branding, blogging, etc., let me make you a warm introduction to Laura to see if she can help you level up in those areas. She's going to remind you, don't compare yourself to others on social media. Don't copy, be authentic, be your own self. And remember, inch by inch, it's a cinch, people. By the yard, it's hard. So don't try to copy somebody else that has 135,000 followers, and just grow your own self at your own pace, but just be consistent and keep that creative mind open. She'll tell you great podcasts are consistent. The sound quality is on point. And of course, the host, me, is on point too. And I can joke here because I love my Laura. And if she was younger and she wants to remind you as well, is to start networking. Don't get out networked or outworked. Bottom line, that's how I always live my life, is don't get outworked or out networked. And also she remind you to just start, get those ideas out there, because if you're holding them to yourself, that's the bad side of selfish. You want to get them out there because you don't know whose life you can change and help level up. And with her dash, she's going to be remembered as somebody that has put together a platform, help people level up, and she's going to be remembered for it. And there's going to be a progression from where she might leave off, but what she did is going to be critical to it. Freedom of time is what to strive for. And it's people like Laura's company that can help you with that and help you level up. And time's that commodity we never get back. And she will help you with that. And lastly, she's going to say, develop good habits. You'll get more done if you develop good habits. And like she said, maybe getting up early, getting off the screens earlier, getting to bed earlier, having some fun, maybe even talking to family members more and socializing. So, she's consistently leveling up. Laura's not only my really good friend, but she levels up her health, levels up her wealth. She's just fantastic. She's such a go-giver. We're blessed to have you on, Laura. In all seriousness, I love your guts. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Time to Shine Today podcast, proudly brought to you by Sutter & Nugent Real Estate Excellence, who can be reached at 561-249-7266 and online at www.sutterandnugent.com. If you are a business owner or professional who would like to be interviewed on Time to Shine Today, please visit timetoshinetoday.com/guest. If you like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to our website. Also there, you will see our recommended resources. We hope that you will support our show by supporting them. If you like what you've been listening to, it'd be great if you could just give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe while you're at it. I'm your host, Scott Ferguson, and until next time, let's level up. It's our time to shine.